All right, welcome back to another episode of the All American Hoops podcast, episode 87. I'm your host, Chris Driscoll. Joining me today is basketball TikToker, and I would say, I don't know, would you call yourself like? Have you ever given yourself the title of NBA historian, or have you, or is that too cocky? I don't know. I'm sure people have called you that before, but it's like, is that self-inflicted, like self or no?
I haven't. I mean, it's a nice title. I'd like to think that perhaps I had earned it at some point, but
Yeah, you will. Yeah. Yeah, it's very funny, like, yeah, because, like, yeah, like, my brothers call me that sometimes before, I'm like, "No, like, I absolutely not." Like Carson from Nerd Sesh is a historian, I would say, I would say, but, yeah, I don't know if I would go far enough to say I'm on that level yet, but, yeah, good to have you on. I was on your show last September, 2 Septembers ago, actually. It was right before the 2023-24 season. So, yeah, very excited for this episode. But before we start with basketball talk, every episode, I go through the episode. So as I mentioned at the beginning, a minute ago, I said this is episode 87, and I try to give a player that has worn the number 87. Um, has there ever been a player in basketball history to wear the number 87? I'll give you 2 seconds.
you know what's funny is I have what I'll call number blindness.
Okay.
Like genuinely, I watch all three of the major sports.
Mhm.
I follow them deeply. I guess that excludes hockey.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell
Me
you
too.
what number anybody wears. Michael
Mm.
Jordan wears 23. And the rest is like I have no
Yeah.
idea. And
Yeah.
it's interesting. My brother has what I'll call like handedness blindness. Like I'll be like, "Is James Harden left-handed?" He's like, "I have no idea." But and for me, it's a number thing.
I'm kind of like
I
that
have
too, actually.
no clue.
Yeah. So no player in NBA history has won the number 87, but however, debatably, and I think probably the two best tight ends of all time, both Rob Gronkowski and Travis Kelsey, both wear the number 87. So,
Interesting.
yeah, it's funny, and I bring this up every episode whenever I have a guest on. We are in trouble by the time episode 100 kicks off. So by then we'll be starting looking up athletes' birthdays. So that's what we'll do
Uh,
for every
Smart.
episode from here on out. So
You're
yeah, that's
probably fairly it's probably fairly thin at this point, even
it is
now up
very
into
thin.
the
Okay,
80s. Yeah.
and like especially in the 80s, like yeah, like I'm like okay, we're in wide receiver talk now, and then like once
Yeah.
we get to the 90s, it'll be like defensive lineman talk as well. So, um, yeah, definitely running very thin for certain. But like yeah, like it'll be fun when we get to the 90s. That like some of the niche numbers, like it's often guys that like played in the league for a while, and then they join like a team later, and then they decided just to put on a number for fun,
Mhm.
whether it was for retirement or something else. Um, but yeah, so as I mentioned, both Aaron and I are both extremely possible chairs, and I are both extremely passionate about the history of the game of basketball. But before we do that, we're going to talk about current day basketball because just a couple hours ago, we got some free agency news, which we really haven't gotten. Actually, two days in a row now, we've actually gotten some pretty. I wouldn't say like they're not league changing, but they're like fun signings. Bradley Beal to the Clippers and Damian Lillard returned to the Trailblazers, which was out of nowhere. I feel like I haven't really heard any Dame rumors as of recent. And then today we got the report from Shams that he signed a 3-year, $42 million deal with the Trailblazers. Aaron, what are your thoughts on this signing?
I mean, I love it. I think Dame is very down to earth. I think he's very introspective. I think he understands where he's at. He knows that he's 35 and isn't going to play for a year and then is going to be a smaller guard on the back end of his 30s coming off an Achilles tear. And I think you could look at it and say, well, he could still get a ring. But I think what would mean more to Dame, honestly, is finishing his career out in Portland rather than I mean, he could be on some disgusting team. I'm sure he could be the third option for some failed trio 2 years from now, but I don't really see that as a viable option for him. And I think this is probably the good ending for Dame's career.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that it's funny, like more and more, I feel like the NBA player is very forgiving. Like we saw it with like we kind of saw it with like James Harden and Russell Westbrook reuniting. We saw it with like I feel like we saw it like even when Kevin Durant was like interested in the Clippers, maybe them pairing back up with Harden. I feel like whenever like or even like hearing like Kyrie was interested in signing with the Lakers back in 2020. So like things along the lines of forgiveness and not even forgiveness, just like it's just like letting the past go. And Dame demanded a trade like very close to like exactly 2 years ago. It was like July 2nd, I think, of 2023 that he demanded the trade. And obviously a lot has happened since then. Obviously, the Bucks were a failure in 2024. Part of that, I would say most of that honestly wasn't Dame's fault. I feel like Dame's tenure in Milwaukee. Obviously, the expectations was sky high. They were tied for the favorites to win the East, and then both he and Giannis got injured, and then obviously their supporting cast outside of the two of them were pretty bad. But like, I think that Dame and Giannis did their jobs for the most part. It's just that everything that could have gone wrong did go wrong. So that was the issue with Dame, and then obviously him rupturing his Achilles was just the total nail in the coffin. And then the Bucks decided to wave and stretch him, and then he basically could just do whatever he wanted. And then like, I honestly, yeah, like you said, he could have easily just like went to a contender or somewhere else. Like, he could have gone to Houston. He could have gone to I don't really know where else like was interested. Like, yeah, he could have gone to Boston and paired up with another guy who just tore his Achilles, and like they could have like done it together. But he decided just to go back home. And I honestly think, like you said, he's very self aware at this point in his career that there's not much that he can do at this point. I'm sure that when he comes back, he's going to still be a solid player. Like, he's never going to be like a top 20 player again, but like, he can still contribute on a team. And if he's gonna just play basketball and like not necessarily prioritize winning, just might as well just go home, and like, I'm pretty sure that his wife and kids or maybe not his wife, but yeah, his kids are still living in Portland as well. So yeah, definitely a right move for Dame in my opinion.
Yeah, probably not his wife. I think they are split at this point,
Yeah,
right? I think that was kind of a major piece of contention.
I'm like, oh wait, no, he's not married actually.
Yeah.
So the 14 million I thought was interesting though. Like, I don't like I should have looked up the money tracker before this. But I honestly didn't think the Dame was going to get more than a $10 million contract as far as it goes for AAV. I don't know what you think about that.
It seems like a reasonable deal. When what's the price for this? I mean,
Yeah,
if they're
exactly.
paying him $20 million a year, you don't love that. But at
Yeah,
14 and 2, you basically buy the time he's playing. It should be fine. And they have no expectations for
yeah,
next season either. That should be
mhm,
pretty reasonable. But I
sure, yeah,
honestly think the Bucks, Giannis and Dame pairing was probably one of my worst predictions at least. I thought they were going to be just unstoppable. I really did. Um, I
just
mean, think about how good Dame was in 2023, right? He averaged like
yeah,
32 a game.
mhm.
He looked like he was the best offensive player in the world at times. And you had one guy you had to guard a half court, and the other guy was the best like rim
You had to,
finisher in
yeah,
basketball. It
you had to
just
build the
did
wall.
not work at
You had to
all.
build the wall in order to like limit him. And yeah, just if you think about spacing, like, yeah, yes, it's obviously going to work. Which like I said, like, I do think that the pairing of Damian Giannis was solid. The two of them, when they were on the floor together, were very very good. It's just that when one of them was off, their depth was just so weak. So like, I'm on the train of like more so blaming the Bucks front office than I am for blaming Dame, and definitely not blaming Giannis, because I literally
Mm,
don't think Giannis could have played any better, especially this past year. Maybe 2024 could have played a little better, but this
mm.
last year, like, if I feel like if you had a supporting cast, you could have very well won MVP. But
It's
um,
possible. I'll
yeah,
make a note that Giannis probably isn't as good defensively. I mean, I know he's
that's
not as
true.
good
Yeah,
defensively as he was. Even
that's
in
true.
2021, he's probably about half as good as that. And so now you have kind of a maybe an overrated backline defense as Brooke Lopez got
Yeah,
older and
exactly.
older, and Giannis probably
That
wasn't
was the
moving that
issue.
kind of way. You flip
Mhm.
Holiday for Dame, all of a sudden it's like this team just you can't defend anything. And so
Exactly.
it just
Yeah.
wasn't as good.
And and like, I know like a lot of people would like to rewrite history and say like, oh, how the hell could you trade Drew for Dame? Like, their defense got so much worse. I'm like, no, trading for Dame was the right decision.
Mhm.
And no one said otherwise at the
I
time.
do it again.
It was definitely a hindsight 2020 move for sure. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like, yeah, who knows? Maybe if they were to make this trade again, it would work out, because I can't imagine it working out worse. So yeah, but overall, yeah, definitely very happy for Dame, and I feel like
Mhm.
that the pressure's off him now. Like, yeah, he was obviously, yeah, it was his career in Portland didn't really have a ton of pressure. So, and then he was had a ton of pressure in 2024, and then just totally, again, like, not all of his fault, but like, it totally failed. So yeah, he's back home. He's very comfortable. And yeah, and hopefully he heals very quick. I don't know if he's gonna, I don't know if he's gonna come back quick. I feel like at his age, he's gonna want to ease it up
He'll
for the
be
full
out for
year.
the year. What
Yeah,
was the Beal figure? What is his
the,
contract end up being?
I think, is it 6 million or 12 million, or is it? Hang on.
I forget what it was per year. Either way, I think it's like $11 million a year. I mean, the big thing with Beal, moving on to, I guess that's the other signing.
Yep.
you hate Bradley Beal if he's making 50, but you really like it if he's making 12. And so it's
Yes.
definitely a change of perspective. And I think the Clippers are, they're going to be a really good team. I don't love them as title favorites at this point. They're just too old. They're too brittle. We saw them in with good health last year, and they just weren't that great. Like
Yeah.
they were pretty good, but they're not good enough
Mhm.
to really kind of lose your mind over. But turning Norm Powell into basically Beal and John Collins is certainly another upgrade. And I mean, the West just gets tougher and tougher. And I hate the Jazz. The Jazz, the Jazz turning was obviously Sexton and Collins into jack shit. I mean, I just like it just bothered. I don't know. I think about
I
like the
w-
worst situations in the NBA, and Utah just really stands out to me because I don't think any of their players are good except for Marketing, who they
it's
seem to hate.
does Jazz Twitter hate, or Jazz fans hate, they don't like Markkinen?
And no, I'm saying like the team hates him.
The
I think
team.
Murray
That's right. Okay.
Markkanen's
Okay.
great.
No, so do I.
They
Yeah.
don't play him. They don't trade him. They just have one. I think Markkanen's like a top 30 guy if he's healthy, or
It's
if they're
close to it
playing
at the very
him.
least. Yeah.
And they're just like no, like not interested. I'm just gonna waste his entire prime.
Mhm.
I can't
Yeah.
even do it.
By the way, Beal's deal was 2 years, 11 million in total. So it's actually for the vet minimum, or like very close to the vet minimum. It's 5.5 million per year, I
Mm.
think. So yeah, it's interesting for sure, because like, yeah, the Clippers' identity is, for the past year, has been defense, and I feel like it should continue to be that way. I don't really know how good a defense John Collins is, if I'm being honest. Like,
He's
yeah,
fine.
he's fine. Yeah.
He's
So
fine. I mean, he's not
yeah,
gonna hurt you, but
yeah. So yeah, like, and my philosophy has always been, you can't have more than one guy that you can target on defense. Which Harden isn't like, it's not like 2015 where Harden was like, you target him because he doesn't even try. Like, but like
yeah.
Harden is getting older, so like you can still in a way target him. Like, you can like outrun him. So in like, if they in like a playoff game, I don't think you'll see many closing lineups with both Beal and Harden. I feel like you might have a lot of lineups where Beal's running the second units.
I do think this is one of the oldest teams in league history.
It's got to
I
be
mean,
right.
think about like Harden, Kawhi, Beal.
Even if it's Batum, like, even if it's
Yeah,
not by
Batum. Brook
even if it's
Lopez
not
is 9,000 years old.
like, even if it's not by age, like, at least like the play style of those guys is
Oh,
at the very
sure.
least old. Like, like the oldest knees of all time for sure. I can say that for sure. But yeah, the Clippers were a team where I feel like they were going to slip off anyway. Like, they were the 4 seed last year, but I feel like everything went well for them, but they still couldn't get
Mhm.
past the first round. You did as good as you could with a 35 year, I think he's 35, with like a 34, 35-year-old James Harden.
Mm.
And yeah, everything went well for him this year, and I would be very surprised if he played that great again. I feel like it's usually off like alternating
Mhm.
years as far as goes for Harden. I feel like
That's a
he's
good
been solid,
point.
but I feel like it's always like on and off for like how much of a contributor Harden is. So it'll be interesting to see what he does next year.
Certainly.
Um, absolutely. So yeah, we'll get back into currency talk later in the show, but
Okay.
we did want to dive into each of our lists.
Mhm.
We did a little bit of this back in like the end of the offseason in September of 2023. So 2 years have passed since then. Obviously a lot has changed in like as far as it goes for players' legacies, but also my mind has changed a lot on a lot of things for sure. I feel like
Mhm.
that's one thing that people don't talk about with these lists, is how many times your mind changes, especially for like
Yeah, sure.
as you go later down the list. I'm sure, yeah. But yeah, before we dive into that, do you want to actually, and you do this at the beginning of every single one of your TikToks, but like, do you maybe
Mhm.
want to give your criteria for like how you
Yeah,
rate your
sure.
players? Yeah,
I always say in the beginning of the
yeah,
TikTok videos, it's accolades, stats, longevity, peak, and contributions to winning. Now, it's not that those are all like 5 equal pieces, but
right,
those are just kind of the 5 things that I really talk about. Because I'd say accolades are more of a byproduct of peak play, essentially. And so some of these things kind of go hand
right,
in hand together. They're not completely isolated.
absolutely. Um, But yeah, so our top 10 is relative. I wouldn't say it's that similar, but like we have most of, if not all, this. Yeah, we have all the same guys.
Yeah.
It's just the order is a little different. We do agree on that. The fact that we think that MJ is the goat, and LeBron is second. I very rarely talk about the goat debate on the show, but like, is there anything that LeBron can do at this point, to like surpass the Jordan? Is it another ring? Is it like 5 year? Is it like 5 more years? Because I feel like it's one of those things where like I'm not like, where like I don't really know.
Mm.
Um, it depends on how you look at because like I can hear like the LeBron. I've heard the LeBron case over and over again. I'm like, yes, I understand that, but at the end of the day, I don't think that there were any 5-year version of LeBron was as good as that any 3-year version of Jordan. So like, um,
essentially.
yeah. So like, is there anything that LeBron can do at this point
I
in your
really
mind?
don't think so. I mean,
Yeah,
who knows what LeBron is capable of this, but I do think this is gonna be so drawn out. Like LeBron retirement is not gonna be like, and we're done. It's gonna be Rodgers, like Brett Favre esque. It's gonna be a nightmare. I'm not saying they're gonna be bad at the end necessarily, because LeBron could probably be good at basketball until he dies, but at the same time, like there's just not going to be a gentle walking away from this. I don't know what he can accomplish in that time. Like if he does go to Dallas and he wins a title, like would I look at it differently? Probably, but at this point, I mean, I do think it's. I don't think LeBron's highs are as high as what Jordan did, three-peating twice, and I don't think MJ's lows are as low as what LeBron did. You know, getting his ass beat over and
right.
over and over
Yeah.
again. And
Mhm.
honestly, I think that's such like the big like cultural piece of why I think Jordan tends to get like more respect, and why every time it's like the players voted for the GOAT or this website voted for the GOAT, it's always Jordan. I think it's just LeBron losing all the fucking time. I just think that's such a big part of it, because I mean,
Yeah.
think of a star from the era he came into, or the era that he came in with, or the era that came after. Like every single person who's ever played basketball in the NBA, except for Jeff Teague, took a piece out of LeBron. Basically, it's like Steph got him, and Durant got him, and Duncan got him, and the Celtics got him. Like everyone is like, I beat that guy, and so it's just I feel like there's a little bit of the kind of the mythos lost.
You forgot to add in 2 players, Joakim Noah and Al Horford, seem to have never gotten LeBron's number. In that sense, you could also include and the LeBron to Raptors as well. Those, yeah,
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 that should have been the big one. Is
yeah, mhm,
is the
yeah.
DeMar DeRozan stuff, but
Uh,
and of course, like in through paving the big three, and like paving that path,
right.
and
Hmm.
and it was like kind of successful. You win back to back rings, but then through that path, like Durant does the same thing, but it's just way better and like beats you a bunch of times, and it does feel like it's just, yeah, the chasing of the ghost is kind of always just going on. And maybe he needs another 20 years to do what Jordan did in 15. That's just kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, it's definitely fair enough. And yeah, like I couldn't say it better myself. And yeah, like the biggest one was that MJ LeBron was never as good as MJ at his best, and MJ was never as worse as LeBron at his worst. So that's what
Yeah,
it.
basically.
Yeah, that's what it really comes down to at the end of the day. But obviously, the more years LeBron plays, I feel like it does better help his case because at the end of the day, like we can nitpick his game as much as possible. 20 straight seasons of playing at an All NBA level is absolutely absurd, and
Hmm.
it's something we've never seen, and it's something we're probably not going to see anytime soon. Actually, yeah, I don't know. Like, it's tough to predict that for sure, but I can't imagine it happening. But who knows?
What's so interesting is, I mean, when we were, I don't know, how old are you?
26,
27, I'm 24. So we're about
26,
the
yeah.
same age. And
Mhm.
so when we were kids, like Jordan was on kick, you couldn't be as good as Jordan. Like it was 100% Michael Jordan's the go. And so that seemed
Yeah,
unreachable. Like you could never get to this. And so the fact that we're here, and it's probably like, about maybe 60-40 in favor of Jordan, depending on who you ask, is
right.
pretty insane. I mean, look, Kareem's record was one of those like, no one will ever break this ever. Isn't this
Right.
so insane? And it's just like, no, it's possible. And so yeah,
Mhm.
LeBron has definitely like pushed the limits of
Yeah.
what's possible. And like I remember when he passed Kareem, I feel like that was something that kind of came around more like 2016, 17, 18 range, where it's like, all right, this guy is like, we're heading towards like the GOAT conversation. And then
Right.
2020 kind of vaults him into that. Um, and so yeah, it's all been kind of unforeseen stuff.
For sure. All right. So, yeah, we're not gonna go through everyone in the top 10, but like, yeah, like
Mhm.
I did want to talk about 2 different pairings because, I feel like I feel like the ones who I have in my top 5. Again, I'm not saying this is right or wrong, but I feel like, or maybe not so much anymore, but I feel like a very common top 5 is having Magic and Bird at 4 and 5, and then having Duncan, Kobe, and Shaq in like that
Mhm.
6, 7, 8, 9 range. So I was just wondering, what is it exactly that puts Duncan and Shaq ahead of Bird and Magic for you?
Well, think about their careers ending kind of quickly.
Yeah,
Magic has ends up getting HIV, and then that's terrible. And Bird has the back injuries, but through those same years, those same ages, Duncan and Shaq have very similar careers to those guys. And then they play and then it keeps going. They don't retire. It keeps going, and they have all these great years, kind of before and after. I mean, just looking at Shaq came in at age 20. I think Bird was 23 as a
23,
rookie,
so something like that. Yeah,
leaves at 31. Where has it was the back injury at 30, basically.
yeah,
Um, Shaq's 27 and 12, top 10 MVP voting every single year, three peats, makes two other finals. Um, and you have the '06 ring. I think the peak of Shaq is basically as good as anybody.
right.
I think Jordan and
Especially
LeBron.
especially the finals, yeah. Especially
Yeah,
the finals. Yeah, he's you could even say any version of Shaq, like 2000 Shaq is like debatably better than any version of any finals
anybody
version of LeBron. Yeah, even Jordan too.
ever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I did a top, I think it
I
was
remember that.
20
Yeah,
3-year peak series, and I had Shaq second.
yeah,
And people are like, how could LeBron not be above this? And it's like LeBron did not three-peat. Shaq averaged
yeah.
30 and 15 and
Right,
three-peated. And I think what makes LeBron special is you could have three different sets of 3-year peaks that would all be in the top 10 of 3-year
right.
peaks, and it gets complicated. I'd say Shaq's peak is just is better than Magic's and Bird's. That's kind of just how
Okay.
I see it. He's playoff proof. He's just bulletproof in the playoffs. Um, he basically doesn't have a bad series until I don't know. Oh, Duncan in '03, where it's that's kind of
Right.
slowed down a little bit. Where I do think you get those from Bird, especially throughout the
Mhm.
Eastern Conference, and I think from Magic, it just doesn't it doesn't hold the league hostage quite like Shaq did.
That makes sense. And yeah, again, and you've and I'm not going to slander Duncan because yeah, and
Mhm.
you've made enough videos defending him, and I agree with every single
Sure.
thing every single thing you say. Usually, the thing that has me for Bird and Magic ahead of Duncan
Mhm.
particularly is Duncan at from 2003 to 2005 was probably the best player in the league, but I feel like he wasn't. And maybe part of this is probably because of his personality, but I feel like he was never really dominance. Like we know that he's the best player in the league for sure. Where Magic
Mhm.
and Bird had, even though it was for a far short amount of time, they were there and they were like the faces of the league. They saved the league, and and in a big game, they were the ones to take over.
Mhm.
Duncan, I'm not saying he didn't have the games where he took over, but he just did it in a different way to where I understand that he was like the one constant of being part of a dynasty. Even though some people from Players Choice don't think that the Spurs are a dynasty for whatever reason. But so I get that I do understand the argument for Duncan, but I just think the peak isn't there for him. I think that's the
Mhm.
issue with my issue with Duncan.
You could say the 3-year peak because he gets in the I think the tear in 2000,
Mhm.
kinda takes the night that could have been something, and then the
Right.
'04 season isn't as good, and '06 is kind of weird, but he's back in '07. It's never, strung together like Bird or like Magic or like Shaq necessarily, but I'd say it's just kind of unsuspecting almost, where it's like, "Who's gonna win the title?" It's like, "Oh, the Spurs again." "Alright, here we are," and all of a sudden it's,
Yeah. Yeah.
from hitting his first, 8 seasons, 99 to 98 to '07. That's 9 years. Um, he gets 2 MVPs and he picks up 4 championships. And I think he's the best player in the world in '05 and probably '07 again. The '03 playoff run is the best probably the best carry job the league's ever seen.
It's up there.
And I
Yeah.
don't know if anyone's been players have probably been better. The best of Shaq is probably better, LeBron and Jordan, of course. But in terms of just taking a team with very little around him, and I think he averaged 25, 15, and 5 assists and 3 blocks. It really is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And he thrashes the Nets probably even worse than Shaq did. Um, I think that's probably better finals than
It's
anything
it,
Bird
yeah.
has.
It's funny that you say that because I read the book Talking Basketball last year
Mhm.
by I forgot his name. I'll remember in a second, but like he goes into like he's like a big analytics guy, so which like
Mhm.
I'm very like when in doubt, like I lean with the analytics, but like obviously it doesn't tell the entire story. He so Duncan didn't have that second option, so like yes, it was considered a carry job, but most of the nights he did have a second option that was really stepping it up. But that being said,
Mhm.
it is like mentally very tough to going into a night like and not knowing who your second option is going to be because like
Sure.
obviously obviously LeBron goes into 2016 okay like if I have an option shooting I'll default to Kyrie. Duncan didn't know like who he had to do that, especially with 2003, because obviously Parker and Ginobili weren't able, nobody knew who they were at the time. So
Mhm.
it really depended on the night for Duncan. So yeah, that's definitely something he deserves praise for, even if there always was someone that stepped up at the end. He just didn't know who it was. That was always an issue. Cool. All right. So next, I guess we can. Yeah, I didn't really structure this well, but is there? I guess like you could say like anything ranging from like 11 to like 25. Is there anything on your list particularly that tends to be more controversial? Like or like that you get the most pushback for?
11 to 25.
Or, or,
Um,
or later, like yeah, like or any part of the list that you think you could get the most pushback for?
Hakeem is always a difficult one.
Yeah,
Hakeem's I have him at 12, and I actually moved him up recently. Just really looking at how insane those back-to-back titles really were, leading league in scoring, being one of the best rim protectors, if not the best. The Rockets, I think the system they had around him is always underrated, but it doesn't make what Hakeem did less impressive
of course.
because he
Hmm.
he was the hub of the shooting. They just kind of rained down on teams. It is interesting when teams will figure out something that like directly relates to what we know about modern basketball and they win titles doing it and then no one picks up on it, like no one's like that 3-point shooting Houston is doing is like really valuable, because immediately like right after, not right after, oh I guess right after you get Jordan and more mid-range shots into Shaq and Duncan, it's a lot of post
Makes
offense and
sense. Yeah.
everyone's brains fell out of their skull and like remember the 3-point shots that the Houston had. But um those two rings that Hakeem have, I think some people look at and say he should be in the top 10 because of this. Like he should be in the top 5 because of this. And it just never is really like that because the rest of his career isn't as strong. Like looking at Bird, like he's always one of the, you know, what, 4 best
Seven.
players in the world, 3 best play like every
Yeah.
single season essentially, and the same thing for Magic. And Hakeem fluctuates. He's closer to 10 most years than 1. He gets his 2 seasons as 1. I kinda go back and forth on Jordan's retirement. I mean, if Jordan is there, obviously, I don't think this Hakeem peak is the same because he probably isn't the consensus best player in basketball. But at the same time, every single player that could have been the best player in the world, and they all had pretty equal chances to do so. It's like David Robinson, Barkley, Karl Malone, Patrick Ewing. These guys could have done that, and Hakeem is the one that grabs that crown and wears it. And so that's always been really impressive. But I do have to kind of say, like, well, that's great. We stop here. He's just not a top 10 can. He's one MVP and 2 rings. It's not enough.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. I do think that yeah, like I go back and forth with Jordan as well, but like I think I have established that I think the Bulls could have won in '94, but I don't think they would have won in '95
It's
because
possible. I mean,
yeah,
we had him
yeah,
in 95. You said
yeah,
that
exactly.
you're
So
assuming he
yeah,
has
but
a ramp up.
yeah, everyone says that they lost because Jordan was in a baseball body, but no, they lost because they didn't have anyone to guard Shaq at the end of the day. Like MJ played fine, like he played good enough for them to win. It was the fact that they didn't have the big man to stop Shaq.
Hey, there's my Shaq argument. Beat Michael Jordan. Put that on there.
There we go. Yeah, that's fair enough
Yeah.
for sure. No, MJ was in a baseball body. Didn't you hear me just say that? So, yeah. So, um, I guess I think yeah. So obviously, yeah, you know how much I appreciate your list and like everything
Mhm.
that goes into it. I think out of the, I guess there are two big things that I have the biggest problem with your list on.
Sure.
I think one of them is Kevin Garnett's being too low, and one of them is James Harden being too high.
Ah.
I yeah. So yeah. So my thing with Garnett and I feel like I feel like the Garnett lens is depending on how you look at it. So if you're looking at pure talent, he's especially for how he played in his era, he's one of the best defenders of all time. I think if you take out Hakeem, take out Duncan, take out Russell, I think that you can make the argument that he's the best remaining defender of all time. from an offensive standpoint, he's probably the best passing power forward of all time as far as it goes for like pressuring offenses. He has the most killer mid range. We were talking about it last week on NBA Max. About how people say like, oh, like if three point shooting was more important during the time, maybe would have taken it. No, there was like for whatever reason when Garnett took the three ball like a foot further, he just couldn't make it, but like a foot in, it was literally the most unstoppable shot of all time. I understand like the whole like getting frustrated with the fact that like he only made one conference finals until he joined Boston. That being said, I just feel like you look at the actual numbers and what he did. I just feel like from like a two-way ability, his peak is up there with some of the greats. But like that being said, like my criteria includes winning too, which is why I have him barely inside my top 20. What do you have? You have him at 23 if I'm not mistaken, or 22?
I have a 23.
23, I thought so. So I guess it isn't that far off, but I just hear the way that some people talk about him and how I think that some people look at his. I feel like some people try to give that supporting cast a little too much credit, when in reality, I think that Garnett absolutely carried those teams and made them look better than they actually were.
I think that's true. I know you have him higher than me is because he put on a Celtics jersey at some point.
No,
I understand what's going on. I get it. I think the big thing, honestly, with Garnett, I don't think he's that great of a scorer. That's
no,
just
he's
kind
not.
of part of it. And so, well, he's a pretty good one. You know how many 30-point playoff games Garnett has?
Does he have any?
Yeah, he has a couple.
Oh, he's a couple. 3.
4. So
Okay.
you have 4.
Oh,
I think Duncan has let me see. Duncan has 36.
wow.
And obviously playing in more playoff games helps with that. The percentages still kind of work out there. But
Yeah.
you do see every year in the playoffs, like Duncan's just kind of bulletproof. And I know Duncan Garnett's kind of an unfair comparison. You know who's also just like 25 a night in the playoffs is Dirk. And his team is 50 wins. Like they have one of the longest streaks in league history of winning 50 games
Right.
consecutively. What Dirk does to tear apart, like just murder the Western Conference in 06 to get to the finals is I think is better than Garnett's 04 run. And he has 2011 as just in his back pocket as well. I just prefer Dirk for those reasons.
Yeah, I understand that, but what leads me to Garnett over Dirk is is the two-way ability. I also think that Garnett's the better playmaker as well. And also the fact that Dirk did have so, like he always had like that, he always had like that solid second option. It wasn't always an all-star, but it was always like more than solid. And I feel like Garnett didn't always have that consistently. Like he had Sam Cassell with him for a couple of years there, but I just feel like compared to Dirk, I don't think that was ever really that part was ever really a question.
It is interesting. I do think it's one of those things where if they swap places, both teams get worse. Because Dallas had the
Yeah, I agree
infrastructure
on
to
yeah.
support a kind of a high volume, like great scorer, but Minnesota needed somebody to fix all their problems, and Garnett could do that. And so, I mean, they're so close. They are so close.
Yeah, for sure. The other one I want to talk about, as I mentioned, was James Harden. So, I have him at 34, which I feel like is probably as low as you could have him. I did recently swap him and Chris Paul. I know that you for a second did have Chris Paul ahead of Harden. And like towards like when you first started making content, and I hung on to that for a while because I thought that the defense was the difference maker there. But then I realized that okay, James Harden has been so much better. The peak was better, and he's been the better player for the last 4 years now. So what are we talking about here? So while I think that Chris Paul, you could plug Chris Paul into more systems, especially in a playoff setting, Harden does have the higher peak. The reason that I have Harden so much lower than like his talent or like his stats is because just over and over and over again, we see it happen every single year that in a big game, he just totally chokes. And with this year, you can see it coming from a mile away. Like the Clippers were, like I think in my opinion, I think the Clippers were a better team than the Nuggets. It's just that they just completely fell apart, and part of it was because of Harden. And I understand that like guys like David Robinson and who else did I hire? Even Elgin Baylor like have like their low playoff moments as well, but like I just don't think anyone above him, their lows are as low as James Harden, and Harden's lows just happen to be in the biggest moments, and that's just I feel like that's just like a deal breaker for me, especially when you're comparing him to all-time greats.
With the Chris Paul and Harden thing, I would flip flop them. Whoever disappointed me last, like
exactly.
whoever just was like, oh, this is terrible. I think I had I flipped Harden after it was. I think it was he was with the Nets and like the Heat just walked him into the ground. And then you get the Celtics one as well. And then Chris Paul, of course, there's a million reasons why he's not great in the playoffs. But
Mhm.
I think the thing with Harden, and he has to be above David Robinson. Like that has to be. We can't get around that. With
Ooh.
Harden's play, I mean, the regular season peak, I think, is even maybe a little bit higher than Robinson was, and it definitely was a lot longer. And he's better in the playoffs. Like, you don't get like the floor falls out from under you. Like this is a fucking disaster. Like from David Robinson. David Robinson is just not viable as a first option scorer basically every single season that he played for San Antonio. You cannot do that. I think they lose to a lower seed like 6 out of the 7 years before Duncan gets there because everyone's just taking chunks out of David Robinson. And this season he averages like 30 a night. That comes down to 20 points per game and they just get crushed. Where I think with Harden, you lose to Golden State like 5 times. I think they beat him
True.
in
Yeah.
15, 16, 18, and
18,
19.
19. Yeah. And then again,
Eh,
and, wait, he wasn't with Houston this year, but like, yeah, Houston did lose in Golden State this year. But yeah,
yeah.
four of those times it was yeah.
You run
20,
into that, and he's bad at in some points, but you have that 2018 season, you have 2019 to hang on to and say like he went like at the best team in the league, one
toe
of
to
the
toe.
best
Yeah.
teams ever,
Yeah.
yeah, and
Mhm.
almost had a. You don't get that from David Robinson. Like Robinson, they played the '95 Rockets, who aren't that great of a team, and Hakeem blasts him. Like he's horrendous throughout that series, and Harden, like, while it isn't phenomenal, he's at least going toe to toe like with this Warriors group. And what's the difference between Kawhi Leonard and James Harden in 2019? Like one of them had to play Kevin Durant. That's a huge step up. The other one got to play basically a whole different Warriors team, and you get a championship everyone celebrates so much. And I'm just saying,
I get it. It's just and like maybe it's part of an intangibles thing where like when and maybe it's by personal bias because I watch clips of David Robinson and he looks like one of the best players of all time and I've seen and we'll look at the Bleacher Report list in a little bit, but like I've seen lists with David Robinson, especially the analytic nerds. They'll have him as high as like 15 to 20 because like
ridiculous,
which make like,
preposterous.
by the way, part of them might be like they just look at a picture of David Robinson, not even the film, which is like, oh
Yeah,
wow, this guy's fucking huge, like no one can guard him. So maybe that's part of the reason, and like they look at him getting bullied by Akeem, saying like, oh, who wouldn't get bullied by Akeem? So like maybe that's another
yeah.
reason my personal bias is there, but yeah, and I was once on your page as far as it goes for having Harden ahead of Kawhi because like and if you really zoom into Harden's playoff drops, they're not as bad as people say, but like then it just kept on happening year after year after year and it
Hmm.
got worse. Like this past year, he played awful against the Nuggets, 2024. Who was game 7 against the he was in the Clippers. Did they play in the playoffs? Oh, against the Mavs. Yeah, like yeah, Kawhi got injured and like he didn't step up at all. And then even and like you mentioned against the Celtics, and he was the second best player on the team. But like Embiid obviously did him no favors. But Harden literally played worse than Embiid in that game, if I'm not mistaken. So um, it's probably maybe it's a recency bias thing with Harden, where like I just haven't seen him play good in a playoff game at all.
Sure.
Probably since Game 4 of the 2023 series because. Actually, now that I remember that, because I remember you're the one that actually made the graphic. Replying to it was actually replying to one of my comments on your post.
Mm.
Actually, it was the game scale graphic to where like he plays.
Yeah.
Well, he plays good in game 1. Like game 4 is usually where he plays the best, and it's like a triangle. Like he plays, and then like by the time he gets worse as the series goes on. So, the longevity is there, the peak is there, but yeah, the moments aren't there. That's what keeps him so low on my list and so low on a lot of other people's lists.
It's so tricky, but like you have to take Isaiah Thomas and move him behind James Harden. There's no reason. There's I mean, think about like Isaiah Thomas is on these Pistons teams and he's a very good player. Like he makes the All-Star team. Like congratulations. If it's such a scaled down role, I can't even imagine the team you'd have to build around Harden where he's not an all NBA player, where
Fair.
he's not top 5 in MVP voting. He's like 14th in MVP shares. He's in like the top 5 every single season.
He has like 4. What is it? He has like 4 or 5 top 2 finishes or whatever. Because like
Yeah.
even Yeah, 2019 he won, and then like 2015 he came in second. 2017 obviously came in
17?
second. It,
He maybe he should have won the
he,
2017 one.
he,
I mean,
he,
I like Westbrook that year, but still.
yeah, I understand why, but like, yeah, I would have gone, and I know that Zach Lowe said that made the argument for Kawhi as well. So,
Mm. Yeah,
yeah, a couple other players of the argument, but
when's
um,
Isaiah Thomas's MVP year?
I don't remember.
When's he the best player in the world? Is he a top
He's
5 player one time?
both. It's funny. Both he and John, yeah, and you contributed to the fact, like, you did a good job convince me to move down John Stockton. You didn't do quite enough to convince me to move down Isaiah Thomas. Actually, that's not true.
I'm working on it.
I used to have I used to have Isaiah Thomas pretty high. I used to have him at like 24 or something like that.
He's
So yeah,
yeah. They
a
like him.
couple spots.
It's funny. I think people will be like, the media didn't vote for Isaiah Thomas because, they hated the Pistons. They loved the
They
Pistons,
fawned the
man.
Pistons. Oh my
Everyone,
god, they love them. Yeah,
they
yeah,
beat Boston. Come on. Like,
yeah.
eventually Boston turned into the grumpy old men, and Detroit was the like, and they beat him and they beat Jordan. I mean, like, come on. Don't tell me
Yeah,
like that kind of stuff affected the accolade voting.
exactly. Cool. So, um, I did want to talk about Bob Cousy actually, because it's funny. I feel like if you were to ask, I'm not saying that this is like actual like reliable evidence, but like I feel like if you were to ask any Celtic fan, most Celtics fan, the top three Celtics, they would say Bill Russell, they would say Larry Bird, and they would say John Havlicek. But you have Cousy ahead of Havlicek, which like, yeah, like I've looked at your list a bunch, but like, it's something that I didn't really actually, it didn't click with me until last night. So I think you have like Cousy at 30 and like Havlicek in like their 32. I think I have Havlicek much higher and Cousy a little bit lower. But Cousy is just someone I've always struggled with. Like I used to have him as high as you did, like 6 or 7. I've moved him down since like 8 or 9, maybe even closer to 10 as far as it goes for comparing point guards. I'm sure the Cousy is someone that you get a lot of pushback on as well.
I guess. I think it's one of those players where no one fucking knows, man. No one knows like
Yeah,
where
exactly.
Bob
Right.
Cousy's ranked.
Yeah.
Like, it's funny, like I'll tweet something or ask a question. Like, I did a poll, like, where does SGA, like, where should SGA be
Yeah.
ranked? I think we both have him like around 50.
Yeah.
And the most common vote was out of the top 100, basically, or somewhere, because no one has any idea.
Even
Like,
after the finals one?
after the finals, but like,
Really?
it's
Wow.
not because
Okay.
it's not because people don't like SGA. It's because no
No.
one else is making top 100s like this, because no one
Yeah,
else like
exactly.
has any context for this. And so I guess I wouldn't say I get pushback. I think when I make like my top point guards list and Kuzi's 6, people would
Right.
be like, you're telling me Kuzi is, is
Better than
worse
Steve
than
Nash.
who?
Yeah.
It's better
Yeah.
than Steve Nash. And I like Kuzi for a couple reasons. You have like the 6 rings, you have the dynasty, like he kind of orchestrates this fast break, in Boston's, the fastest team in the league year after year after year. Him kind of being the focal point of that. There's also a piece of him like kind of making basketball a watchable sport that I like. Like, prior to,
Fair.
because
Yeah.
Mike is no one's like, let's go watch the Lakers and George Mike, and it's like 55 72, and you're like, that was awesome, and 6 players left on a stretcher because this game is way too physical. And Kuzi, obviously, beyond his time in terms of his skill set, in a way that actually translated to winning, that helped his team in an immense way. He wins the 57 MVP and wins a title in the same year. He wins the unofficial MVP, I think, in 55 and 53 as well.
Oh.
If you have, I don't know how much Sam Davis Memorial Award stock you have, but
I don't.
it's my unofficial MVP. There's a Basketball Reference page about it.
Oh, there's the guy.
It's kind of tricky because I think that's like a Confederate soldier, and it's like, is this the actual unofficial MVP, or is this like the most famous white guy that played basketball? It's a little hard to tell, but you can put some stock in it, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you have the same thing. I have like a mega spreadsheet of all the awards, and like under them I have WH would have both for Finals MVP and for MVPs, and I think I do have Kuzi for at least one of those, but yeah, obviously I added like 6 of those for Mike, and like I didn't have to check the stats or anything else for like the years that he was there. But so yeah.
And think about Kuzi's scoring as well. Like, he leads the playoffs in points per game.
He did
3 times.
Yeah.
Second in points per game, I think, once or twice. And so he's not just like the best passer in the league. He's also averaging 20 a night. And guards in this era like are not averaging that many points
No,
per game. It
yeah,
was very like traditional kind of like I run the offense and I make the right passes, and Kuzi's just like destroying that.
makes sense. Cool. All right. Think that's most of it. Yeah. Is there anything else that you wanted to either say about your list? Okay. Okay. I'm talking about like specifically your lists, or okay, or my list. Like I'm talking about like specific players. Anyone else you wanted to talk about?
You got to move James Worthy down, man. What's going on?
I was going to say James Worthy, and the other one
What's
that
going on?
the other one that you don't like actually is Reggie Miller as well. I have him much higher than most people as well.
Yeah, that's way too high.
Reggie,
Give me a break. That's way too high.
I like Reggie Miller. He's yeah.
Dwight Howard was almost the best player in the world, and you're gonna tell me Reggie fucking Miller is
Who would you rather have? Who would you rather have in the playoff game? Reggie Miller or Dwight Howard?
Dwight
Like,
Howard. I'd rather
no,
have
no
prime Dwight
way.
Howard. Yes,
Come
I
on.
would. I'd rather have like prime Dwight
Right.
Howard. Like beat LeBron James. He averaged 30 points a night on his face. I don't want Reggie Miller. No,
I'd much. Reggie Miller is one of the most clutch players of all time. He comes up big in
sure.
yeah. I get it. Yeah, Dwight Howard did indeed beat LeBron. I do feel like the Magic team gets very overlooked though. He like yeah, like they were another team. They were another team. Like you mentioned the Rockets. They even go even modern. The modern Magic. They shot a boatload of threes as well, but then for whatever reason, it wasn't until Mike wait, is it Mike or Mark D'Antoni? Mike D'Antoni. Yeah, Mike D'Antoni like didn't start up that system again, but yeah, like Stan Van Gundy was did that prior to, but yeah, no one picked it up. But
Yeah, that's a
yeah,
good point. It's another
yeah,
one. Just like that was really good. You know,
yeah.
my favorite one is the 1981 Royals.
Oh, the Royals. Okay,
Royals? No, we were the Kings, the Kansas City Kings at that
okay.
point. When they moved cities and changed names a couple times, they get flipped around. But their point guards get injured. Like Phil Ford gets injured, and they end up running like Scott Wedman at the what, and it works. They make the conference finals. They're doing this kind of like positionless, like small ball thing, and they just go back to sucking for the next 20 years. Like no lessons learned. Like no idea what came out of that. Let me pull your list up again. Yeah, I'd rather have Dwight Howard over Reggie Miller. I'd rather have the whole time. Like, I mean, the peak for peak. Like, come on, he was unbelievable.
Peak for peak, yes, but like Reggie Miller again, another underrated longevity king as well.
Oh, sure, yeah, he's good for 10,000 years, but it just doesn't add up like that.
Right? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, having Worthy in front of Carmelo. I know. Yeah, I mean, I think we have Carmelo in about the same spot.
We do. Yeah. Like he's like I remember having him lower, and I checked your list. Like I checked your list to see if it was justified. I'm like, okay, it is. Like
Yeah, I have
yes,
him 72, so it's about the
yeah,
same spot.
yeah.
But he's like twice as good as James Worthy is.
No, but
I
he's
think.
so that actually leads to like what I wanted to talk about next, and like that's
Hmm,
and maybe we should have talked about this in the beginning, but like I always think it's interesting when we're ranking like glue guy players because if you're talking about who you'd rather have in to like carry your team to 50 wins if you need to win 50 wins in order to like get like some sort of grant or something because like not even grant but you just want to win as many games as possible. Yes, you'd rather have
yeah, you know
Carm.
the goal of the sport. Yeah, I'd like
Yes.
that too. Yeah.
No, I'm talking about like winning meaningless games. How about that? Winning meaningless
Okay.
games. Like, yeah, you'd rather have
Uh-huh.
Carmelo. Yeah, like that's the better mindset. But plugging into it as the second or third option, Carmelo Anthony could never be the best player on a championship team. I know that some people think he could been. I don't think there's ever a time where Melo's deep offensive game, or not even his offensive game, just his scoring because he was a an awful playmaker and defender. So yes, he could lead your team to a bunch of 50-win seasons, but as far as it goes to winning championships, I don't maybe in like a super team he could have won as the third option, but I think that James Worthy is someone you could plug into more systems than Melo.
Okay, so if putting Carmelo Anthony in the same spot as James Worthy makes that team a super team, that means Melo is a better player. That's the
Well,
only that is like that's the
well,
definition of it.
I think they get worse though if you put Melo there instead of James Worthy. Do you agree or no?
No, I don't. I don't.
No.
I understand in the sense like I guess the big thing is like if the requirement to be better is that James Worthy gets to play with Magic Johnson and Kareem, then that's not a
That's fair.
situation I'm not
That's
gonna
fair.
replicate that. And so I
That's fair
guess
enough.
think about it. You can't cross them. You can't like cross compare them. But I had a argument with a guy on Twitter. It's probably the longest Twitter argument I've gone over. My my limit when arguing with people online is usually 3 back and forths. Like, I'm not gonna go further than that. I'm not gonna go back and forth. And if I respond with a video and they keep commenting, they're not getting a second video. And so there's limits to this. I think I went like 8 comments deep on this one. I got way too invested. But they told me they'd rather have Draymond Green than Damian Lillard. And I think it
Then
fits
Dame?
into the same than Dame. And so, but I think this
Oh
fits
my
into a
god.
very similar conversation where
No,
it's
no,
like,
it does, yeah,
well,
but like,
who plugs in better in winning? And I don't care I don't care who plugs in better next to Steph Curry. If the league completely dissolved and I have to redraft all of these players onto these teams, Lillard goes in front of Draymond every single season of their career. Every every single one. There's not a year on this planet where you would have taken Draymond Green ahead of Damian. Maybe one. Maybe one.
2016 Draymond, I
You
think
could
was
take
better than
2016.
Dame and Stern. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's fine. But still, like, and that's how we know who's better. And I
So,
think it kind of
so
goes
yeah,
for like, if you have a Carmelo Anthony in the first place, then James Worthy is more valuable. But you're
yeah.
not going to
So,
take Worthy beforehand.
so it's interesting just because when I'm ranking my current day players,
Mhm.
I do it based on the way that you're scoffing at now. I think about if you're building it's simple. I answer the question: if I'm building a team to win a championship, who would I rather have?
Mhm.
So I always use the comparison today in today's day. Trey, like, if you want to try to win 50 games, who would you rather have, Trey Young or Kyrie Irving?
Is there an obvious answer? So many get to 50 wins?
No,
Is
like,
Kyrie
okay, oh, you'd rather have Kyrie?
Yeah.
I'd rather have Trey Young. I think that Trey Young raises the team's ceiling, like
Mm,
floor
yeah.
more. He raises the team's floor more as for like carrying in offense. But that being said, if you put them in a solid system to where like you need to pair him up with a good player, you'd rather have Kyrie Irving because he can play off ball better, he can defend better.
Yeah.
Like, neither of them are good defenders, but like Kyrie's solid. He's fine at defense. So while Trey Young
Man.
is yes. So while Trey Young is like the better floor raiser, I do have him relatively lower on
Mhm.
most lists, and even a guy and even a guy like Jalen Brown, I'm kind of dreading seeing Jalen Brown like first option Jalen next year, but like, no, he fits into most systems like a glove, like as being like that
Mhm.
second option. And I'm sure there's a couple other NBA players, like he's the first one that came to mind because he's been the second option forever now, but. Yeah, there's like, and even Draymond, like Draymond is higher because because he's like that perfect role player, like because he can anchor a like
Mm, sure.
if Draymond's on your team, you're gonna have one of the best defenses in the league no matter what. So that I think that's what it comes down to for like a lot of these lists. And yeah, so
You think Rudy Gobert could have won a title with Kevin Durant and Steph Curry?
um
Yes,
yes
of course he could. He could have won,
yes
like,
yes
yeah. Alright.
no, I had to process it. Yes, he
Mhm.
would have won. Yes,
Yeah, I think it's the same deal with Rodman, like how we get to
yes, it
if
is the
Dennis
same.
Rodman
Yeah.
got to have a front line of Jordan and Pippen, like, sorry, if Rudy Gobert got to have that, and that's why I have them like fairly closely ranked, and I think Rodman was probably the worst ranking on the Bleacher Report list we haven't really mentioned
Yes,
yet, but
that's going to be the next thing we talk about. But like,
all
yeah,
right.
and since you talked about Rodman, this guy on TikTok that I go back and forth with on my lives. Yeah, he was telling me like it was ridiculous how I had Rodman ahead of that I had Draymond ahead of Rodman. Yeah, like that just shows you how much the old heads like love him.
Mm.
I'm like
Draymond's
no,
much better than Rodman.
yeah, like defense. Even if you want to say that Rodman's much better defensively, like he's better. I don't think he's much better, but yeah, but like
Mhm.
it doesn't nearly make up for their gap on offense. Like
Yeah,
yeah,
I
come
agree.
on. Yeah. Cool, but yes, Bleacher Reports. Yeah, Bleacher Report released their top 100 list on Monday. I was really happy when it came out because I'm like, oh, like this literally could not have come at a better time. So we can
Mhm.
so we can go crap over that list together. So yeah, we already talked about Rodman. He was what was he 66 or something on the list?
67th.
67.
67 for Dennis Rodman. He's the
You
best
mean
two-time All-Star the league's ever seen.
I mean maybe he is. I don't know.
I
But
mean, possibly. I could
yeah,
do it. Maybe that's a series, the best two-time
um
All-Stars ever.
I think Manu is due All-Star. I think he's better than Draymond. I think he's
Oh,
better than
yeah.
Rodman, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I have him
Yeah. Yeah.
above Rodman.
Yeah, but yeah, both of us made videos on this, but like what stood out to you the most, honest? Like what stood out to you the most, do you think?
It's basically the theme we've talked about. It
Yeah.
is a consistent overrating of very good role players. And I have
Yes.
on my list, there's tabs at the bottom. It's like the Bill Simmons pyramid and ESPN 75, the Athletics 75, ESPN is 74. They did earlier than that, just so you can kind of click through and be like,
Mhm.
what are other people saying about all these players? And goddamn, man, Rodman is always so high on these lists.
Yep.
Um, he made two NBA teams. They do check-ins every year at the halfway point for the All-Star game and at the end of the season for the All NBA teams. And they go, who are the best players in the league? And Rodman's a part of that conversation twice. Two times for the All-Star game and two times for the All NBA team. I think it's two third team selections. And I think he's was Alonzo Mourning was behind. I think that was the video I
Yeah.
made. Alonzo
Mhm.
Mourning was 10 spots behind him. Alonzo Mourning almost won league MVP. Like, give him a break, man. Like, can you imagine Alonzo Mourning as the defensive anchor? And he's a 20 and 10 guy. Like, flip Rodman and Mourning, and it is the greatest dynasty the league's ever seen, whatever
Yeah.
team he's on.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah, and my favorite thing was just reading the criteria. I'm like, this just looks like a whole lot of nothing. Like, it just said like, oh, like, okay, you mean something so it's someone's peak and their culture impact and this and that. Like, and like once I just feel like once they mention culture impact, I'm like, okay, that's going to be their gateway to everything else.
What's
What,
so funny is
yeah,
I'll get comments occasionally and they're like, please do a cultural impact list. And I was like, I love you guys. I love that you guys think that I could be the spokesperson for the cultural impact list in basketball. Like, you guys, I must be very well respected to think I have my fingers on the pulse
I
of
think the
that.
second you would make that, you get a bunch of comments about a bunch of white boy comments about about how
And that reasonably
yeah,
so. I'm
yeah,
like, white guy
exactly.
from
Yeah,
the suburbs talking about the cultural impact list. I have
yeah.
no clue, man.
Um, is Kobe Bryant the most disrespected player in NBA history? Like I've been hearing about for the past week.
It's possible. It's interesting. I feel like I have him at 10, but no, I have him at 9. I've been 9. But it's like a strong 9. It's like he's gonna be in the top 10 for a long time, and I feel really good about it 9. Um he's closer to passing Magic and Bird than he is falling out of the top 10 in my opinion. And so it's so tricky. I feel like people who look at it and say that Kobe was always top 3, he was always top 5. I don't know, man. If you
That's not
weren't
true.
paying
Yeah,
attention
yeah,
or if you weren't doing this seriously, like possibly, but because I look at Kobe and I go like, I want this to be a top 5 player. Like he was so good for so long, he won so much. Like clearly impacts winning at a high level. He plays on both ends. He was fucking awesome. We have all these great things, but it just comes down to like being a top 5 player for 15 years doesn't hit the same as being top 1 for 5 or top 3 for 10. Like just getting to that next level. I think like Duncan has that and Shaq had that and
right.
Bird and Magic have that. Kareem obviously has that. Russell has that. Knee high.
Yeah, it's interesting. So yeah, I don't know if I agree with you. Yeah, with like jumping ahead of Magic. You have Magic and Bird a little bit lower than I do. So yeah, so yeah,
Hmm.
I understand
Yeah.
why you say that. But at the end of the day, like, is there an argument for Steph Curry? Like, yeah, like we both have like Kobe at the same place and the same guys behind him. So is there an argument for Steph Curry, Will Chamberlain, and Akeem Olajuwon being ahead of him?
Fuck no. No.
You don't think so?
No. I
Steph
think
Curry?
Steph's close. I think Steph is the one I've made videos in
Yeah,
the past being like Steph, he's playing right now. He's playing at such a high
yeah, mhm.
level. Um, he win a title? Could he make the finals? And I'd think about this differently. I don't really think
Right.
the
Yeah,
Warriors are in a place with their roster to do that, but I thought it was possible. I mean, I
yeah,
looked at him as like, could this be a Duncan, like our generation's Duncan, basically, where it's the same team forever and they win 5 rings and it's awesome. But I think we're still a step away from that. I mean, I think Duncan, excuse me, I think what Steph has less or the same amount of all NBA teams as Kobe has first team selections. Like it's just not as consistent for Steph. Like I think 2016 is might be as good or better than
it's
Kobe
I
has
think it's
been.
I think it's well better than any version of Kobe. Like, which
That's fine.
I'm not a fan of Kobe, so like maybe that's personal bias bringing in, but like, but like yeah, like I think
Yeah.
there's yeah peak Steph, but like yeah, I don't know. It's tough. It's tough either way, but like yeah, Kobe is top 10 in my
Mhm.
book, and yeah, like yeah. I know the Carson from Nerd Sesh has him at like 12, as them at like 12, if I'm not mistaken, because he has
Man,
like the, yeah,
Carson. I need to talk to them again. I went on their podcast a long time
I,
ago.
I remember listening to that. Yeah, that was really cool. But by the way, you made me sad when you said that. When you said this our generation's Tim Duncan, because then I immediately thought about my king Jason Tatum. So
Yeah,
yeah,
could
who's
have
actually
been.
our yeah.
Could
Well,
have been. Another guy that got woefully disrespected
I
on the
was
list.
like, and like yeah. So I opened the article. I'm like okay. At first I was like okay, are they gonna have Tatum on this list? And then I scored down like 93. I'm like okay, I'm even more pissed off that he's if they had him off the list, I would have been less pissed than that they put him at 93.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
but
certainly. It's a really interesting phenomenon. I haven't named it quite yet, but when a player is from an older era, people are like, I love James Worthy. I know exactly how good James Worthy is. And he's
yeah,
like a top 15 guy a couple times
yeah.
and won a bunch of rings. And I think I said he was closer to Chris Middleton with good PR in a Lakers jersey than Jason Tatum. But with Tatum, like it happened right in front of our
Well, like
faces where he was like
and
top 5,
but
top 10, won a title, and like I don't know what to do with that. 93rd.
but like the thing is that like we can talk about like oh it's only because he's not playing, but then you have Jimmy Butler, who Jason Tatum, like it's like 2-1, but Jason Tatum has been better than him for like the last 5 years. What is that? 10 spots apart.
Mm,
Joel freaking Embiid, who Tatum has outplayed in the playoff series 3 times,
yeah.
is like 30 spots ahead of him, and then like Luca, which I'm fine with. Like if you want to have Luca ahead of him, like with like I think you have him like 4 or 5 spots apart. Like that's fine, but like 30 what is it like 50 spots apart, that is utterly ridiculous. And like yes, I'm more passionate about Tatum because he's probably my definitely one of my favorite players of all time, but like no, there have not been 92 players better at basketball than Jason Tatum, and like even building a career like Jason Tatum retires today like as like yeah like, he's a top 60 player all time, so
Should be.
like yeah it's ugh.
And SGA, who is better
Yeah,
than all the guys you just mentioned, is is not even on the list. And it's like
well
that just happened. I wonder
well
if
like
the voting.
so that one's interesting just because I have him lower than Tatum and Luca, but like like that's because um we've only seen 2 elite playoff runs out of him, and this was the first year that he made it past the conference finals, and it can even pass the second round. So like that's why I do have him a little bit lower than like a couple spots lower than like Tatum and Luca, who have had like long
You have
elite
him
playoff
lower
runs.
than Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum himself.
Yes,
I wouldn't do
he's.
that. I wouldn't do that.
I mean, I understand why. Like, obviously, Shea in the past 2 years has been better than Tatum, but Tatum does have the
Mm,
yeah. Both of them have the ring. But they're the same age, and Tatum has been Tatum was better like their entire careers
mm.
up until the past 2 seasons.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that would be worth more if it was a lower tier of player. But this is SGA going
That's fair enough. Yeah.
to this level. Like he's now the best player in the world, or as good
Right.
as one or
As good as
two. And there
yeah.
are no Tatum seasons like that. And there are a few seasons like this in league history to go
It's fair
MVP,
enough. Yeah.
Finals, and that's why I had him ahead of Luca. I've been calling Luca's next year's MVP for like 4 years now. So one of my favorite nicknames. Um, no, he'll get it next year. Like, don't worry, his MVP is coming. It just never happens. Or for SJ, like to actually do that, to
Yeah.
actually be the
It's fair
best
enough.
player on
Yeah.
a 68 win team, and to actually win the championship. And um, I'll take a nice stroll through the 2024 Celtics playoff opponents and really see what's going on if we're gonna, compare
No,
rings,
let's.
because it's not just like, oh, this guy has a ring, that guy has a ring.
Oh yeah, the
One of them beat
2024
Jokic.
the 2024 Celtics opponents, as if the Celtics didn't sweep the Pacers, and then the Thunder pushed it to 7, and Tatum played better against the Pacers, far better than Shea did actually. So yeah, I wouldn't go down that path actually.
I'm gonna go. No, we're talking like the worst. I mean, I think statistically, I mean, if I did like a worst finals runs or worst championship runs, is 2024 Boston the worst one?
What are you talking about?
Is it is it the worst one?
I don't know, but it looks that way because the Celtics won 16-3 and won 64 games. Like it's very easy to
No,
nitpick when you just dominate.
I think it looks that way because the teams they played were crap, and their players were injured. But I
But
understand what you're saying.
okay, I know that you don't hate Jason Tatum, so yes, so I'm not going to throw.
No,
I'm
I
not going
do
to throw
like
you.
I honestly
You,
I do have a
you,
soft
you,
spot for the Celtics. all this is like Bill Simmons stuff, and I grew up reading like the books, and so I'm always like I
Yeah,
do like Boston. I was happy they win a title, and
yeah,
I enjoy tormenting
yeah,
Boston fans
mhm,
occasionally though.
yeah. So I included in our agenda that I wanted to, or I even said like if you don't want to talk about it, to talk about the Kings for a second there.
Hmm.
But like when you mentioned like in like up there as the worst spots, you could honestly argue the Kings honestly, given like their roster construction and like based on styles of play. Where's your head at with the Kings now? Like I feel like I've seen you make a couple of videos on it, but like but like where's your head at as a fan now?
It's terrible, man. I hate it out here. It's really bad. Like genuinely, like looking at like turning. How do you turn Fox and Halliburton into Sabonis and Levine is just like so bad. That is so sad. You know what sucks is I actually thought I was actually pretty happy when we got Levine. Like I thought Levine would fit in well, and he was downright horrendous. Like he was really bad. Um, Yeah, I mean, the emptiest numbers I could think of, Levine would have basically he'd have 12 points and he'd wait until the game got out of reach and then he'd get another 12 and he'd be like, hey, 24 points per game. But it's not aggressive enough in the right spots, even though statistically he's one of the best ISO scorers in the league. I hope the meteor comes down and just smites us, man. I just don't know what these next seasons are going to hold. The one like thing of hope that I can have is I do think Scott Perry like hates this roster. And I know for a fact that he's attempted to offload DeRozan, Levine, and Sabonis, but he has been met with the challenge of every team in the NBA is asking for our draft picks attached to them. So we're
Right.
stuck with those guys. I
I just
and
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, you had more to say. Go ahead. Yeah.
The draft, though, Neat Clifford and Maxime Reynaud have looked excellent in summer league. That's
Yeah.
a
Awesome.
glimmer of hope that I haven't had in quite some time. Like legitimately though, how many minutes per game do you think Neat Clifford's going to get in this season?
Not this year. Oh, no, what, like 10? Like I don't even know.
10 over
Yeah.
40 games,
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe. It's because
Yeah. Mhm.
Zach Levine has a destiny with the play-in.
It's
He has
insane.
it's written in a scroll out there
Yeah.
somewhere buried in the desert. The play-in was promised to him 3,000 years ago. He has to get to it, and it's just we're stuck like this. And I think we're probably better than the Pelicans, and we're probably better than the Blazers, and it's going to be a hardy fight for the 10 seed. But I guess I'm optimistic in the fact that maybe this is fixable. But every time I think about how we got here, I feel so sad.
It's tough for sure. And the worst thing about it is like it seemed like in 2023 you guys were just like this fun team to watch. And like everything has gone wrong since then. I just remember thinking it was funny when you guys traded for Levine. I was like, oh wow, Levine and DeRozan reunited. Like yeah,
Mhm.
that'll be fun. Like no, I literally thought I thought like, oh, they must be trading DeRozan because there's no way they traded for Levine to pair him up with DeRozan again after watching that shit show for the past 3 years. And I no, I wouldn't say shit show. Like it was just like that's what's like the most average TV show ever. Like just like watching the same thing over and over again. Like it's not good. It's not great. It's just fine. Like it's just a consistent.
Mhm.
It's consistent basis. But like yeah, then they didn't trade DeRozan. I'm like oh, they're doing this again and Sabonis is obviously much better than Vucevic, but he's like the same style player. Like they're
Mhm.
phenomenal. Like obviously Sabonis is probably the best offensive big, not named Cats or Jokic, but
Yeah.
like another guy that's like not great at like not good at defense. So um yeah, like there is a world where you can where DeRozan does have a market somewhere. Like if he has a if he has a good season, like it feels like he's like another longevity guy where like it doesn't seem like he's gotten worse. So maybe he's someone that they can get traded eventually, but yeah, obviously, yeah, 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 obviously, yeah, I feel bad for you guys. Obviously, a ton, but like, yeah, and now I can finally sympathize with all the other team fans of the NBA, given that the Celtics can be pretty bad this year too.
Nah,
Yeah,
it's interesting. I was looking at like my way too early predictions, just like trying to like, what's going on here? Is it like is Boston given the seed of the Eastern Conference? Like, where do you feel like Boston's going to land?
don't it's they got so much. Where like I was expecting them to like like. And I understand why they did. They wanted to prioritize getting under the second apron more than they wanted to
Mhm.
prioritize getting solid pieces back for KP and for Drew,
Oh,
but they
yeah.
traded those two guys for Anthony Simons, who was a good player, but like I don't know how much better he is than Payton Pritchard. Actually, like I don't know if I don't know if he's
Wow.
better than them at all. I don't even know if he's better than them at all. To be
Is he not
honest,
better than Peyton Pritchard? It's close, right?
It is close, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So like,
close. It's
yeah.
within like I probably would have Simons like a top 80 guy, and Pritchard's
Mhm.
closer to like 90. Yeah, so
Yeah.
sure.
So yeah. So like you got like another undersized small guard on the team. And then the nail in the coffin is that both Horford, like obviously Tatum was the nail in the coffin, but like in addition to more nails in the coffin is,
It's just like
yeah,
nails
exactly.
after nails.
So
It's
yeah,
just
is
terrible.
both Horford and Cornette walked. I thought we were going to hold on to at least one of them. Like
Yeah.
Horford hasn't walked yet, but like we know that he's not resigning.
Mm.
But I think Golden State is waiting on the Kuminga thing to work out, and then they'll sign him is what
Mm.
I'm thinking happens. Um, but yeah, the fact that like I just look at their big man rotation of Garza, Xavier Tillman, Namus Keita, and Amari Williams, who they got in the second round. I actually think I think he can. I think he could be solid one day, but just
Yeah.
not this year. And yeah, their big man rotation is debatably the worst in the league. So I love Jalen Brown more than anyone. I love Derek White more than anyone. I think them as a punch could hypothetically lead a team could lead like a team in the East to like a top six, like a non-play, like a playoff team. But I just think the roster outside of them is just so much worse.
Give me a win total. I just see where are we at?
A win total. I think Joe Mazzulla is going to refuse to tank at the end of the day.
Okay.
But I think he's going to refuse to tank. But I also think that Brad Stevens might convince Jalen Brown to sit out a few more games. Just say like, listen, like you turn your minutes this last year. And Tatum's not here. Let's sit out a few games. So
Mm.
is 35 too harsh in this weak East?
It's so tricky. I think they scream like it's like the most obvious. This team is gonna really suck. Like this is a really bad roster. Like this should be a like we especially because Tatum will come back the year after. Like this should be a retooling season, a tanking season. Let's go get a top pick and try this again. And there's not a ton in the way of doing that. Like if they just
Right.
shut Jalen Brown down, like this is a really horrendous roster. They have like 100 million on the books doing nothing. Um,
I
if
think
it
that's the
didn't mean
thing. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
much, if I was like a robot GM and the fans didn't matter, my only goal was winning basketball games. The way I would be packing Jalen Brown's bags and just first of all, like Jalen Brown making $50+ million a year is a disaster, but also like how can we retool around Tatum? If my end goal is a championship, like that's kind of the
So,
path that I
so like,
see is a
yeah.
full rebuild
Yeah,
around Tatum.
and it's good that you said like if like nothing if like you're like a robotic GM because
Yeah.
at the end of the day like I know this like, there was like some offers on like the Spurs were like throwing like ridiculous offers
Yeah.
at them like what was it? It was a Castle, Vassell, and like a couple other picks. I don't think they would have included the second round the number 2 overall pick, but like it
Probably
would have
not.
been it would have at the very least been Castle and Vassell. But at the end of the day, Jason Tatum does need to come back to a team that he's familiar with at the end of the day. So, like,
Yeah.
I think they picked the right 2 guys. They picked Derek White and Jalen Brown. I think those are the guys you needed to offload on Pritchard, not Pritchard, geez, on Drew and Porzingis. And you made the right steps. I wish they would have gone more back, but at the end of the day, they did. They got under the second apron for 5 minutes. Now they're over it by like $500,000 or something. So like, yeah, they're going to get under it by the end of the year because they're probably going to trade one of those. They're going to try to trade either Niang or Simons by the end of the season. But I don't know what the market is for either of those guys. Cool.
Probably fine. Yeah.
Yes. What was that? What was the last thing you
No,
said?
I'm all good. I said the market's
Oh, you're good.
probably
Okay.
fine for those good. Yeah.
Oh, fine. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. All right. All right. So, I think that's all we got for tonight. But
Right.
before I do my sign off, you got anything else to say or to plug?
Possible Chairs on TikTok, Possible Chairs on Twitter. My Patreon has all my all-time lists and some other lists and more lists and some write-ups that I've done. I'm on the Hoops Temple podcast occasionally. Top 10 players of 2019, recording that on Monday.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Maybe I'll do that once I log off. But all right, awesome. Aaron, thanks so much for coming on. Yeah, this was a long time coming and a lot of fun. I'll definitely I'll see you in the TikTok comments. Fighting it out over either James Worthy or Reggie Miller. We'll see. We'll see which one we argue about
Thanks for
first.
having me.
But of course, all right. This has been another episode of the All American Hoops podcast. Take a look at all my other content on social media at All American Hooper on TikTok and on Instagram, spelled differently, on just American Hooper on Twitter. check out my additional content. I'm live on Sundays at 10 p.m. Eastern with Sports Fluent, Jalen Carter, and Ori B from Hoop Social, NBA Max. And check out my column on primetimesportstalk.com. Most recently wrote my article about the MLB All-Star Game. But until then, keep grinding and stay hooping. Have a great night.
Oh, Canada.
Put on a suit, drink water, don't drink and drive. Hey, man, call your mother.
It means nothing. It means nothing.
Nah, they lying to you. It's about the money.
Now you're more fluent.